Hey, by the way, tonight's game, New York wins that outright.
You know he's on top. Million subs, he never gonna flop. Out of Chicago, where the streets don't sleep. Betting on games, making cash real deep. Crystal ball for sports, he knows the lines. He's a sports aficionado, the money he finds. From football to basketball, he's always on point. Predicting winners never disappoints. He's got that hustle, that Chicago vibe. Making moves on the streets, cash on the side. With E, you know it's always a bet. He's the king of the game, never forget.
Hello and welcome to the Etoft21sports Show for June 3rd. How is everyone doing? My name is Erik. I'm the man behind Etoft21sports. Absolutely loaded episode for you today. My boy Gino is on. Gino and I are going to give you a betting preview for the NBA Finals, which start on Tuesday. Plus, we'll talk about everything New York Knicks. A lot of stuff happening with Tibbs getting fired. But before we get into all that, I'd like to say thank you to the sponsor of the show, justouttennis.store. Go to justouttennis.store, use promo code ETOFT21 for 10% off, and ProphetX. Guys, I really feel this peer-to-peer betting exchange, I feel this is going to be the future of the sports betting industry. DraftKings, FanDuels, I really think are going to start to get limited with all these lawsuits that are popping up. The peer-to-peer stuff, I think, is the future. Go to ProphetX, get ahead of the game, use promo code ETOFT21. You get 2% back first 30 days and all money bet. Now let's welcome the guest, the man of the hour, my boy, Gino, to the show. Gino, how you doing today, my man?
Doing well, buddy. And if people are normally listening or watching your show and they get the horse racing bet of the week, I can give you one right here. But you and I are going to dive into the Belmont a little bit later in the week on your show. And we're also going to record that for Daily Racing Form too. But I actually like Baeza. So a little bit of a tease. Baeza, Sovereignty, and Journalism are going to be the top three. You got the Derby winner and the Preakness winner. But I actually think Baeza might be some value. 4-1, so it might be a horse that we can bet. If you want to find out more about the Belmont, tune in to Erik's show a little later this week.
Big day of NBA news.
It's amazing, isn't it?
We weren't planning on talking about this, but the Knicks made a little headway. My takeaway had something to do with the Knicks. I'm still going to talk about it, but they obviously fired Tibbs today, and you were going to talk about that. Why don't you give us your thoughts on Tibbs being no more in New York?
Yeah, we were going to sort of talk about what the Knicks would do now after being eliminated, and they've already fired their coach. As you were kind of pointing out when we were talking back and forth today, it's like they feel like they're in a situation where they have to make a move, and it's very unlikely that they're going to be able to move the players that make a ton of money, right? Maybe you can't get rid of Cat, who makes $60 million, or maybe you can't find the trade. So who's the one that you know is the scapegoat? And it's Tibbs. Like, let me say this. Is Tibbs a perfect coach? No. There are plenty of things I think you can poke holes in with Tibbs and what he does in particular. Some good, some bad. But my biggest issue with this, Erik, is always you better make sure that you know who you're going to hire. Like, if you're firing a guy like Tibbs, who is solid to above average as a coach, you better make sure that you have the next person ready. Like, I don't like the whole idea of firing a guy like Tibbs who is above average for just the next guy. Like, I can understand wanting to upgrade, but this just seems weird too, Erik, because, you know, we look back now and we feel like the Knicks were a little bit disappointing. But if you would have said a month ago that the Knicks were going to be one of the final four teams, everybody would have said that's a great run for the Knicks this year, right? They didn't beat any of the top teams. Nobody really thought of them as a legitimate title contender until Cleveland got knocked out, until Boston got injured. So I think it's kind of a little bit frustrating where you're Coach Tibbs, you take the Knicks as far as they've been in 20 years and you get fired.
It's something. And so I was talking to my buddy, and he made the comment to me that Tibbs is a great floor riser.
Yep.
As a coach, they need to hire someone that's a ceiling riser.
Yep. So the one that I heard being compared to, and because you would know this very well, I heard people comparing this to when Rick Carlisle got fired from the Pistons, your group. It was 2003, I think, right then, when he sort of took that group kind of to maybe as far as he would have taken them. But now we see Rick Carlisle's a great coach, right? It's not like he was a bad coach. He just maybe wasn't the right coach at the right time for that group. They might have needed someone who can take them to the next level. I think I agree with what your buddy said, the statement of Tibbs can maybe raise your floor, but maybe not necessarily your ceiling, right? Is there someone else that can move you and put you over the hump? For the Lakers, they had Del Harris, and that was when they went and got Phil and made the move to make, go get that real pedigree coach who you think can win. So, I mean, like, who are some of the names that you would think, Erik, like who would be a good fit for them?
Well, the beat writers are coming up with Jay Wright.
So can I read you reading from like 2 hours ago? This came out from DraftKings. The New York Knicks head coach to start next season. Mike Malone, Johnny Bryant getting a lot of buzz. Jay Wright, Mike Budenholzer, Rick Brunson is the funny one, Jalen's dad. Monty Williams, Taylor Jenkins, John Calipari, Dan Hurley, Jeff Van Gundy. I even saw a couple with Stephen A. Smith on some of those lists. Obviously, that's a joke, but the names that I mentioned would probably be guys in the mix. I mean, for me, I was thinking right away, the first guy I would think about was Malone.
Yeah, based Malone makes sense. Tyler Jenkins, him, Mike Brown, who used to be with the Kings.
Yep.
The one thing that's interesting is there's all these rumors that Johnny Bryant is going to be the next coach of the Suns.
Yeah.
Did they do this move to get out ahead of him? But is Johnny Bryant going to be the guy that elevates the Knicks?
See, like, right? Doesn't he feel like a guy that you would want with a younger team to kind of grow and develop young guys, not necessarily have a group of veterans like the Knicks have who need that next coach to take them over the hump? That might be more of like a Budenholzer or a Malone, right? Like those guys that you've at least seen
take and event over the hump. The other thing that was brought up to me that I find interesting is the whole Rick Brunson angle of this.
Right.
So Rick Brunson was represented by Rose, who's now the player personnel guy who runs the Knicks.
Leon Rose, right?
Leon Rose. Leon Rose's son represents Jalen Brunson. So is this like, does Brunson have a bigger hand in this Tibbs fire than people want to admit?
Yeah. Have they kind of given him the keys? Like most organizations do with LeBron and the big stars like that, right? They kind of say like, what do you want to do? Go ahead. This is strange. And I will say, man, just this year alone, doesn't it show you how much times have changed? Because as a Laker fan, people would kind of give me crap about this the last few years and be like, look, the Lakers fire their coaches all the time. Like, why would anyone want to go coach them? And my rebuttal was, this is just the modern NBA and really modern sports. This year alone, you had Mike Brown, who I don't think it was Mike Brown's fault, right? They were just sort of struggling. It's not necessarily his fault. And then after they trade Mike Brown, they make a bunch of moves and that team looks completely different. So they obviously had some issues. How about Memphis? They fired their coach right before when they were still in the playoff hunt. And then Denver did the same thing all during the season. And then right after the season, you had a team that was in the Final Four. That was an Eastern Conference final team. And they fired their coach. So there were 4 guys this year fired that honestly, I don't know if any of them really deserve to be fired.
The whole thing to me is it's hard to fire a guy after he takes you to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2000.
I know.
Back-to-back 50-win seasons and won it 4 out of 5 times. Now, yeah, you made the Piston comparison, and it worked out for the Pistons because the Pistons did win it next year.
They get Larry Brown, right?
With Larry Brown. They got him. But there's not really a Larry Brown out there that I could see that the Knicks could make a hire. And
no, like, because that would be even the guys that we mentioned, right? Like the person who you would be thinking of for a team like this Knicks team would be like a Pat Riley or a Phil Jackson or like one of those guys who says, hey, we've won. We like Brunson. We like your good group of your nucleus. Like, we'll go there and see if we can get them over the hump, especially next year, because the East could be really weak again next year. With who knows what's going to happen with Boston. Tatum's out. They may be nothing. And Cleveland could make a few changes because they were so disappointing this year. And you just aren't scared of necessarily the Pacers and the Knicks as like the top team. So for the Knicks, you got to look at your window right now and feel like next year we have another legitimate shot, and we don't know about 2 or 3 years down the line because teams like the Pistons are coming.
Yeah,
you know,
Pistons, Magic,
they're not far away. So
you don't know what's going on. Raptors are making these noises about teaming up Durant and Giannis, which makes absolutely zero sense to me. I mean,
so
if those
weird.
two want to team up, that's fine, but why there?
I know.
My big thing is I'm not really sure what they can do next. And, just kind of looking at the player personnel, they're coming off their best season in over 2 decades since 2000. But is this as good as it gets? In today's NBA game, it's built around what? Drive and kick offenses. You need 2-way players on the floor. You can hide 1 defensive liability, but 2, that's going to be the problem. And we just look at net rating. When Brunson and Towns were on the floor together, this was against the Pacers, minus 1.8. When it was just Brunson without Towns, they were plus 4.4. When there was Towns without Brunson, they were plus 11.1.
Yeah.
When they're both off the floor, it dipped down to a negative 18. So the most effective lineup, at least by net ranking, doesn't even include Jalen Brunson, who many consider to be the best Knick since Patrick Ewing, and some are arguing he's the best Knick ever.
Yeah. So
but
the one that I heard that this has just been floating around there because money wise it would make sense. Towns is friends and Booker are close.
Yeah.
Would you try to go to Phoenix and get Durant and say maybe Durant pushes you over? But I don't know. Like we're saying, Towns is inconsistent. He has his moments, but he played pretty well for them down the stretch. It's been 2 years in a row where Towns has actually gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals. I do think Durant has a higher ceiling, obviously, but he's a little bit older. I don't. That's the kind of move they're looking at because Towns is going to be making $60 million soon at the end of his next contract with this next contract coming into play. That's a lot. And you're not really going to win with him being your one. Yeah. Right. And that's the thing about a guy like Towns, because he's one of those stars where he's not top 10, but he's like a top 25 or 30 player for sure. Right. So you that's what's so hard is he's really a good number 2. That's where he would be suited best, but you pay him like a number 1. So then you're paying him, you're paying Brunson and Bridges, and all of a sudden you have no flexibility. And I think we're kind of seeing too, Erik. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to be like this every year. Just because the 2 teams in the finals are this way, don't mean it's going to be this way. But you point out, teams use the teams that make the finals, and the rest of the league kind of will use that as what do I need to do now to make my team like that team? They do it in football. They try to build their team just like the team that won. And I think both Indiana and Oklahoma City, they can go 10, 11 deep, right? And that's not what the Knicks could do. The Knicks could not do that. My Lakers this year, Redick was only playing 5 or 6 guys at the end of the season, right? So we're seeing right now, maybe that's what you need in this current stretch of the NBA, this few years where the CBA is tough, contracts are different. You might need, if you're a team that has a couple extra guys and a little bit more flexibility at the back of your bench, it seemed to really help. Guys like Thomas Bryant are coming in and giving the Pacers a few big minutes, right? And helping them in a game. You get guys off the Thunder bench, Kenrich Williams, they haven't done anything and they come in and then they shift a little stretch of a game. So I think the depth for these teams is really going to be key. And yeah, it's tough for the Knicks because they don't have a lot of moves money-wise, right? They're kind of locked into their.
They can do. They traded 5 picks for Bridges and another one in the Towns trade. And when you just kind of look at their roster, I mean, who do they have out there? They have Brunson, who holds on the ball way too much, dribbles it. And I think that also affects the stuff because Hart doesn't want to come out. Hart plays at 1,000,000 miles an hour, doesn't want to come out. You got Bridges, OG, and Towns who all like to shoot the ball. You know what I mean? I really feel that this roster construction
could use a little
either
mishmashing
to learn, hey, I'm going to get mine at the end. I'll let the other guys get going earlier. You know what I mean? Like, I think
the pace isn't as slow the whole game. Like, keep it open for everybody else, and then last 5 minutes, like you're saying, then slow the game down. That's actually something that guys like Luka do really well. Like, he does a good job of looking to other guys early in the game. You see him throwing good, like, fun passes, kind of like his pace is quicker, and then he'll slow down like later in the game to isolate. And that's something that, you know, they'll have to learn. You're right. It might just be they've got 5 or 6 really good players, but they might be better off trading one of those for 2 or 3 pieces that fit. Like you were saying, even when they were starting to bring in guys like Shamet, you know, like later in the series against the Pacers, they actually played pretty well. And they had decent net ratings when they didn't have all of their 5 best players out there.
And it was just, when you look at it, I started like looking at the free agents and what they can do. Like, the only player that like makes sense for me if they're going to keep what they have is to bring in someone like Tyus Jones. And he's not really a needle mover, just kind of a backup point guard, because that's kind of what they need. But you're right. What they need to do is they need to take one of those guys, OG or Bridges
or Towns,
those guys into 2 and 2 guys, just because they just
that aren't sometimes it sounds weird saying I don't want the better player, but sometimes just being that top heavy.
Yeah.
You don't have as many options or the flexibility, right? Like they were lucky that Robinson got healthy towards the end of the year. He ended up being such a huge part for them.
That was Tibbs' big move, Mitchell Robinson. And if that's like
that's your only move, right?
You know, it's just, and their bench, you know, you got McBride.
And it would jam it. Like we said, that's all they had. They didn't really have much.
You know, he played a little bit. You know, Hart, I thought it was actually better with Hart coming off the bench to kind of give a little bit of a pop. But as good as it was, and I know people are saying like, oh, they only won because Tatum got hurt. People forget they were winning that game.
They were going to beat them without Tatum. Yeah, either way.
They were winning that game, but it was a good season. I just don't know if this is the move. And we've seen this path before when a coach is fired and that team never gets back to where it was.
Yeah.
And I'm not really a Knicks fan, but I will say this. It was exciting brand of basketball and it was fun to watch.
It was.
And, you know, it's going to be interesting next year what happens. One of the things I heard is that like they want to play fast, but then I read this thing online where Tibbs wanted to play fast and the other guys didn't want to play fast.
Yeah.
Greenberg's tweeted out the only move that makes sense is that it's going to be Jay Wright. I just don't understand. If I'm Jay Wright, if I'm making $5 million a year,
he's got a great job.
And I work February and March.
You think he wants to go deal with the New York media too? And like,
why do I want to do this?
No, thank you.
Makes zero sense.
No, thank you. Completely agree with you. He's got a great gig, a cush job right now. And like, it's fun. It's, you know, we all want to put them together because of them being in college, but we don't know if he has any interest in coaching anymore right now. None. You know what I mean? It's just like they're just tying those names together because they've been related.
And all the Villanova guys, obviously.
Yeah.
So let's jump right into it. We each have 3 bets. For either the series or game 1. I will let you kick us off.
So I do think that Oklahoma City is much better overall as a team. I think they are just deep, well-rounded. The difference between Oklahoma City and Indiana, they're both very good offenses, but then Oklahoma City is a fantastic defense. And Indy is just an average defense. And I just do feel like Oklahoma is legit. They were a 68-win team. Like, they've been very good. But all of that being said, I wouldn't be shocked if the beginning of the first game, it's still a feeling out process. So my play in game 1, Erik, I'm going to play the Pacers in the first half, plus 5.5. I think that they can stay in the game early. I think that they'll try to go quick. I just feel like at the end of most of these games, Oklahoma City is going to be way too much and they're going to wear this team down. But I do feel like there is kind of like Indiana's coming into this series really with nothing to lose. Like nobody's really giving them much of a shot because honestly, they haven't been as good of a team or close to as powerhouse of a team as Oklahoma City. I think I didn't even want to play game one because I would be worried about the flip. But I think the first half of game one, I feel like Indiana can keep this game close, keep it within 6. And then hopefully, I think for your bet, Oklahoma City will blow them out in the second half because I think you like the Thunder in game one, right? You think they're just a little too much for Indy?
Yeah, I did the Thunder game one. Pacers defense is better than last year's, but they still struggle big time defending 2-pointers and protecting their paint. That's exactly where the Thunder lives. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander graded out the highest against the Pacers this season by a significant margin. Not really sure how the Pacers are going to be able to contain him. Indiana is the second worst team defending 2-point field goals in the entire playoffs. And when we kind of look back at the 2 games they played, Nembhard was just awful trying to guard Shai during the regular season. And that lineup put Nesmith on him. Nesmith, his opponents have drawn the fifth most fouls in the postseason. So if you put him on Shai, he may not even finish the game.
Yeah.
The other side, the Thunder are elite at shutting down transition. Indiana, that's what they want to do. They want to get out and run. They also are very good against 2-point field goals. Everyone has this thing that Pacers like to shoot the 3. They really don't shoot the 3 as much as people think. And this is going to be the best defense that the Pacers have seen. Thunder swept the season series against them with no Chet. Thunder are built to take away your top options. If they're able to slow down Halber and Siakam, I'm not really sure who in the Pacers can step up. Oklahoma City, better bench, can throw multiple defenders at Halber. And here is the stat of the night. In this year, when they played, Dort guarded Halliburton for 50 possessions. Do you know how many, not points, how many shots Halliburton had for those 50 possessions?
Let's say 10.
2.
There we go.
So,
Could you get the shots off?
Yeah, if he can't get shots off, like how is that going to affect it? And then you're able to throw in Caruso, Wallace, even I wouldn't surprise me if they put Jalen Williams on.
Yeah, they just have a lot of bodies, bigger or smaller, they could throw at him. That makes sense. That's what's hard is like getting there for me. Like I couldn't get there like on paper handicapping the game. Yeah. Like how does Indy win, right? If that's the headline, we've seen crazy things happen and maybe Oklahoma City just doesn't play up to it. Maybe somebody gets injured. Maybe, guys from Indiana continue to hit their threes. They're shooting like 40% from 3. I just couldn't get there with the way I like handicap games and matchups. I just felt like there's so many different guys that Oklahoma City could throw at the Pacers guards and with Halliburton. Even Siakam's going to have to deal with size down there. Like you pointed out, Holmgren wasn't even around. So I couldn't quite get there for Indy. How does Indy win? I couldn't make the case for him.
And then just a couple more things. When we look at the Pacers, their body of work, I mean, how many games have they just absolutely stolen this postseason?
At the end, right?
I mean, they have stolen too many. I'm not buying them at all in this series. When you just kind of look at the trends, favorites game 1 of the NBA Finals, last 20 years, 17-3 ATS. Home favorites, 16-3 ATS. It's just insane to me. Like, this is just one of the most trendy bets you can take. Just take the home favorite game 1. When you look at the Thunder, 20 plus 24.7 net ranking in these playoffs is absolutely insane. 122 offensive ranking, defensive ranking, holding at 97. I mentioned has the Thunders have a plus 24 net ranking at home in these playoffs. Pacers on the road, just a plus 2.4. I think this is just simple. Just give me the Thunder. I think they're going to pull away with this one pull away in the third and then ice it off in the fourth. You have a series ProphetX, my man.
Yeah. So looking at the Thunder, I think they're bigger. I think it's gonna be tough for Indy to match up size-wise with them. So with the two bigs in particular, with Holmgren and with Hartenstein, I think it's gonna be tough because they're gonna be matched up a lot against Miles Turner and Siakam, most likely, right? So I think I was looking at to lead the series in rebounding, and Holmgren is the heavy favorite to lead the series in rebounding. But when you look at Chet and Hartenstein, so the difference between the two of them in the playoffs, Chet has averaged 8.6 rebounds per game, Hartenstein 7.9. Chet has 11 more total rebounds in 16 games.
Yeah.
Not much at all. But the difference between the two of them was Chet as your favorite at like plus 150 versus plus 480 on Hartenstein. So I'm looking at a guy who's basically been a coin flip leading rebounder on the team, but his odds are 4 times the amount that Chet's were. So I just think from a value-based standpoint, if we can keep Hartenstein on the floor, I think it's an either way. It's like a 50-50 who will be the leading rebounder, and we're getting incredible value on that. So I'm on Hartenstein. I like that he was able to finish a big game for them down the stretch. And I think that they'll give him some more minutes late in the game too. So I have him to lead the series in rebounding, total rebounds in the series. I got that at plus 480.
And that just comes down to math. Like my buddy Wade, he asked me to post some stuff like in his Discord. And like the one I posted in there was Nembhard to lead an assist at 20-1. We look at it, Halliburton's minus 900.
Yeah.
But Nembhard has more potential assists and more assists when these two matched up.
Especially with all the attention going to be focused on Halliburton, all the great defenders that you were just pointing out.
It's just kind of like sometimes you just have to kind of sit back and just kind of look at the number and kind of let it talk to you like you did here. My series futures, I did Nesmith to lead the series in threes at plus 600. And this bet actually makes a lot of sense to me. Favorite, Halliburton, I don't get it. When he was guarded by Lou Dort, he just got 2 shots off in 50 possessions this season. 2 in 50 is absolutely insane to me. And that's who the market thinks is going to lead the series in threes. Oklahoma City's entire game plan defensively is built around denying your top shooters clean looks. They might allow a lot of threes overall, but they're strategic who they allow to shoot. And that's exactly where Nesmith comes in. Thunder defense gives up the most corner threes, and Nesmith on the year shot 43.1% from the corner threes this season. That's elite. And guess who's going to be the guy in the corner waiting for a kick out from Halliburton or a swing pass from Siakam? It's going to be Nesmith. In the playoffs, averaging 5.4 three-point attempts per game, second on the team. He's actually leading the Pacers, averaging 2.7 makes per game. Not heavy volume, but he has been efficient. When we look at OKC, Dort leads him in attempts, but it's hard to trust Dort when you look at his road and his home splits. He's reliable at home, but in Indiana, he's really hard to trust. When we look at Jalen Williams, night and day if he's going to be shooting it or not. He's just really, you know what I mean? There's some days when he's really looking to score, other days when it's Shea's getting his. Shea lives inside the arc. Plus, I think it's going to be a layup line for him with how bad the Pacers defend the rim. And Chet just isn't a high volume shooter either. So there's a real path here for Neeson. He's going to be open in the corner. He's shooting well. And, Mr. Frontrunner, Halliburton's going to be facing Dort all series. I just think plus 600 to lead in three is just way too good to pass up.
So my final one, Erik, it's a little bit of a homer play for me. It's my boy, it's my old friend, Alex Caruso. But one thing I love is like being a fan of like a very popular team like the Lakers. There are always players like Caruso, Kuzma was like this, even now kind of Austin Reeves, where players that are like role players that kind of get like thrust up and like they're well known because they play for the Lakers. And I think sometimes it'll be a positive, but then other times it'll be a negative. People will say like Caruso's not very good or this or that, but it's like he's not the type of player who is going to score 20 points for you, but he is one of the best defensive players in the entire league. And when it comes playoff time, in particular, Erik, when I like playing him in props is when he's playing against teams like for the first time or for the first time in a while. If you're not used to the type of pressure, like think about who the Knicks had out there. They did not have the personnel that is like some of these Oklahoma Thunder defenders, in particular, Alex Caruso. So he had a couple games where he had monster steal numbers. When you go through his game log, his first game against Denver, he had 5 steals in the first game of the series against Denver. And that's exactly the type of thing I'm talking about, where you're not expecting it. You come off of a series where you weren't getting pressed quite as much by the Clipper guards. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're getting pressed by Caruso. You're not used to it. And you get 2 or 3, sloppy turnovers. So I get Caruso to get 2 steals. That's just about even money or so. He has 4, 5 monster steal games throughout the entire playoffs. When you look 5 steals, 2 steals, 3 steals, 2, 4, he had 2, 2, and 4 throughout the series in the 5 games against Minnesota. So he hit this thing 3 times.
Quick question. Williams finals MVP or Chet finals MVP worth a flyer? I am pulling up the odds right now. My thing with that is Shea is involved in so much. I mean, he would really have
to get hurt or something. Honestly, like I would have a hard time if they win. He's gonna get it. That's the thing. Like I just don't see a world where he doesn't get it because, like you're saying, he's got the ball in his hands so often. He shoots free throws. He's such a high usage player, and like narrative wise, like he's the guy who people have already been anointing as one of the next faces of the league and an MVP and all of those things. So yeah, I mean, if you're just playing around, like I'll say Chet maybe, but like Chet can maybe do some things.
80 to 1, 35 to 1. I think I love Jalen Williams. I think he's great. I think we're going to see him take another step, keep taking all these steps forward and everything. But Shea's just so efficient. It's just hard. Like, look, if you have a free if you have like a free play, throw it on one. Like if you really want, split a $50 bet, 25 each guy. But I don't think they're going to give it to anyone but Shea. You can play a lot of these bets like game to game in terms of props and everything. My next bet and last and final bet, I am going to your boy you mentioned earlier, Hartenstein. I took over 14.5 points in rebounds. I just think it's a perfect matchup for him. First off, the Pacers are just soft in the glass. They don't crash defensively. They give up a ton of second chance points, and they're getting killed in the paint. Worst team in the playoffs defending inside the arc, and that's Hartenstein territory. He's second on the Thunder in rebounding chances, averaging 16 a game. That's a huge number. And when you give a guy like that room to work, he's going to clean up the offensive boards. Offensively, this isn't just tip-ins and putbacks. This Pacers interior defense is bad. Hartenstein is going to have that little floater that he does wide open on the pick and roll action with Williams or Gilgeous-Alexander. He's hit this number in 10 of his last 14 playoff games. He went over it in one of the 2 games they played this season. The first game he exited early, was a little banged up, only played 14 minutes, so I kind of feel you can toss that one. I just feel that the Pacers lack of rim protection, their issues on the board. This is just going to set up perfectly over 14.5. And look, if you guys really want to sprinkle, his double-double is plus 650 for game 1. I mean, I really feel like
12 points, 15 rebounds, something like that, really, right?
Feel like throwing that out there, like a game 1 double-double, Hartenstein at plus 650. I think that's worth a flyer too. So Isaiah Hartenstein over 14.5 points and rebounds. Gino, I'd like to thank you for coming on, talking a little NBA. Miss doing these with you. We used to do, those who don't remember, we used to do these a lot back in the day. Really looked forward to doing this, and thank you for coming on. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social media, my friend?
Yeah, you can check out the podcast. That's what G said. Podcast anywhere you get your pods. But a lot of work I've been doing more recently has been at Daily Racing Form. And as we get closer to the football season, I think Erik is going to help me do some weekly Daily Racing Form NFL betting shows too on there, like we used to do, and we'll kind of have them streamed from the DRF stuff there. So if you follow at Daily Racing Form, if you're ever looking to play the races, make sure you head to that website. Check out the YouTube channel there. I'm up on a lot of the videos over there. And if you ever need any help playing the races, feel free to reach on out. Always do my best to lead you in the right direction.
Make sure to give my boy Gino a follow. And also check out drf.com for some great sportsbook bonuses. Best of luck in your bets, and we'll talk soon, my man.
Good luck, everyone. Talk soon.